So hey guys, sorry about my toilet paper in the bag, but I finally added this little basket full of toilet paper that I found at the thrift store for $1, and I thought that it was just so cute. But anyway, you guys know why I'm in the bathroom, because it's the only place that I get a few minutes of alone time being a mother of four. I'm not on the toilet. I'm just, you guys know. Anyway, I don't know where that all came from. Today's going to be a bit of a chitty chatty type of video because I just have a few thoughts that came up today. By the way, I hope that everybody's doing good. I'm doing good, the family's doing good. We've just been doing good. Any day that God blesses you with is a beautiful day, just like the Bible says, today is the day that the Lord has made and I shall rejoice and be glad in it. And when you become a believer, you actually see that hope in each day, even if everything is going wrong, even if everything is going upside down. But I want to talk about communion. I want to touch on that because my mom and I were talking today, and she told me that she takes communion every so often. And then I don't know how it came to the conversation of, how or when I take communion, but what I do with communion is anytime that I sit down to eat or anytime that I sit down to drink, I take that opportunity to thank God and to thank Jesus for his body and his blood. And, as I'm drinking my cup and as I'm eating, whatever food I'm eating at the time, even if it's just a snack, some popcorn or whatever, I acknowledge God anytime that I remember anyway. Sometimes I do forget, but I want to say about 80% of the time, that's when I take communion. I take communion anytime that I eat. And so I just wanted, because especially when you're in the church, a lot of people will say, take communion every first Sunday or every, you only take it every so often. But I see it as you remember God and his, and his precious gift, his precious son, and his blood and his body anytime that you eat your food. And so I just wanted to clear that up. You can take communion anytime that you wish to. It doesn't have to be a strict rule. It doesn't have to be, only this time or that time or, whatever the case. I don't know what that is. Okay. Whatever the case, you can do it at any time. So I wanted to cover that. And then also wanted to go over something that I feel is overlooked. Ooh, it's raining, yes. Even, I'm going to go sit outside in just a minute. Even in my own life, I definitely, well, I'm not going to say me, but God has definitely brought this to light to me so many times. And that's the fact of being stubborn. Anytime that you're feeling the oppression, anytime that you feel that you're not in peace, that you're not just at your best, 9 times out of 10, it's because you're being stubborn in an area of your life, whether if it be God told you to stop shopping, or God told you to do this and you didn't do that, or, whatever it might be. Your relationship with God, what God has told you to give up, what God has told you to do, what God has led you to do. And if you don't listen to God and you have that spirit of stubbornness on you, you're going to feel the oppression. And a lot of times when I'm feeling the oppression in my life, I always ask God, bring to light what it is that I'm missing. Bring to light what it is that I need to be improving in, or whatever it is that I'm feeling oppressed in, because it may not be apparent to me at that time. So, for instance, let's just say, let's just say God has been telling me to read the word all day, and I've been doing everything else. I've been looking at Pinterest. I've been, looking at YouTube videos or whatever the case it may be. And God has said, no, shut that stuff off and get into my word. And I'm just being stubborn. I don't want to do it. I just don't feel like getting into my word right now, but those are the times that I have to come to God and I have to ask God, okay, give me the strength and the courage and the will right now to do as you are asking me to do. And it's crazy because you have to pray that God give you that strength to do it. God will tell you to do something, but then you've got to pray for the strength to do it, And it's not funny because, you know how it is when you're feeling that oppression. It's just not funny at the time. It's not. But you can always look back and be like, you know what? that was you, God, that brought me out of that. Or, you know what, that was you that told me to do that. Or, you know, whatever the case, you can always look back on it and you know that that was God at that moment and at that time. And I'm not saying that you can be perfect at all times. You cannot be perfect at all times. I don't always have it together. I don't, none of us do, but God gives us that grace. He allows us that grace. Remember that we are saved by his grace and by the faith that we have in him. It's not always what we can, it's not what we can do. It's not what we can prove that we can do, or if we're doing this right or that right. Because, God does want us to be obedient, of course. But let's face it, sometimes we're just not perfect. We're not. But God allows that grace for us to be able to get back into his will, back into his purpose, or whatever it is, as long as you're not falling into willful sin. Now, I've talked about that on my channel. If you keep doing something willfully, then that's what you want to do. That is what you want to do. Truly what you want to do. That's what's truly in your heart. And that's different. That's totally different. But if you're trying your best and you know that you have messed up a few times, you've asked God to forgive you, you get right back into, submission to God. God gives us the grace and he forgives us for those things. He really does. God is not as mean and as horrible as people make it sound. But God is. He's also a God of wrath. Let's just be honest. If you continue to be willfully sinning, you're not gonna, it's just gonna be like the Israelites. He's gonna deny you, coming into the promised land. He's gonna deny you certain things until you get into that submission. You can't just be willfully sinning against him and not even be caring, or not even have a conscience to do right. You can't do that. You've got to have the conscience and the will to be doing right, and the heart to be doing right. Waking up with God in your heart, praying, getting into his word, doing a random acts of kind, it all goes together, it all goes together. And, you may not be running a ministry, so to speak, preaching in a pulpit, kind of thing. I'm not doing that, but I am doing what God has called me to do in ministering in my home, being a mother, a wife, running a YouTube channel, There's a lot of things that God has put me in ministry in. Ministry doesn't always mean standing in a pulpit speaking to a congregation. That's not always what your ministry can be. You could be ministering at work. Excuse me, sorry. Ugh, I itch. You can be ministering at work. You could be ministering as a mom, a father, a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother, an uncle. You could be ministering in so many different areas in your life, even in the way that you're cleaning and taking care of your home. That's a ministry in itself too, because you've got to keep that up. You know what I mean? And your children are looking at what you're doing as a mother or as a father. And they're looking at that, seeing that you're going to work on time every day, paying your bills on time, that they have the food to eat, the clothes to wear. The children are very observant. They're looking at that all the time. So you're constantly ministering to your children if you're parents. And so my whole point in all of this is you've got to stop being stubborn. And this is a message in itself for me as well, because there have been many areas in my life that I've even been stubborn in, but I'm grateful that God does convict me in those areas, because I can get right back into submission with God with his help, and I like to emphasize that, with his help, because you're not going to be able to do any of this on your own. Let's just face it, you're not going to be able to do any of it on your own. Didn't Jesus say that he's the vine? You have to remain in the vine. Otherwise, apart from him, you're not going to be able to do anything. And that the Bible says that in John chapter 15, I believe it is. Look that up. You have to remain in the vine in order to be able to produce the fruit. So stop being stubborn. Whatever it is that God has told you to do, it's going to be so worth it. Even if you have to go through the struggle and the pain at the moment, it's going to be so worth it in the end. It's going to all come together. You're going to see it. It's going to come together, and you're going to be like, wow, I can't believe that this happened this way. I can't believe that this happened that way. You You have to. Anytime that I even get on YouTube to do this video, I had to pray before I did this video. God, give me the strength, the grace, the words, the will, and everything to, I wanted him to speak through me, and I want him to speak through me each and every time I get on my videos because it's not me. It's God that's speaking through me and using me to minister to you all, even to myself, you know. And so it takes prayer. It takes his strength. Otherwise, apart from him, we can't do anything, guys. We can't. We won't be able to do it. I'm a walking, talking witness of it. I haven't been able to do anything in my life apart from him. And when I came to Christ, my whole life changed, and I finally saw it for what it was supposed to be. And now I don't do anything apart from God, because I know it is God that's doing it in my life, no matter what it is. If I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm running errands, if I'm doing homework with the kids, if I'm even having a little discussion with my husband, you know, whatever it is, I can't do it apart from him. I cannot. And I know that, and I acknowledge that now. And so I'm just letting y'all know, we just got to stop being stubborn. Stop being stubborn and submit to God's will, because his will and his way is the better way. Any will that you created in your mind is not going to be anything compared to what God has for you. You may have to suffer through it a little bit. You may have to struggle through it a little bit. But in the end, everything is going to work out for your good. And I'm a witness of it. You know, everything that I've tried to do in my will, and I said this in a previous video recently, anything that I've tried to do in my will, it's just turned out to be a disaster. But as soon as I submitted to God's will, as soon as I did, everything came together. Everything comes together. You know, everything does. I pray that this helped you guys, and really just take that time, guys, to spend with God. You're not going to be regretful of it, even if you don't want to. Ask God to give you the will to do it. There's many times that I have to do that, but I'm always grateful that he pushes me to do it every time, because, well, God doesn't push you to do anything, but I'm glad that God convicts me so that I will get into his will. And I'm grateful that I got in that word. I'm grateful that I got on my knees, and I feel so much better. The oppression just goes, it just lifts off me, and I feel so much better. I love you guys. Hope you guys have a good day. Bye.